Welcome to the November Focus Friday. For those of you who might not know, I'm Walter Brengel, who have been doing these Focus Fridays for about the last 8 years or so. With me today is not Renee. We have Kin Lim, who is going to talk about designer information. Kin is the product manager for the designer products. Anything to say before we get started, Kin?
I am okay.
All right. So on the screen is the housekeeping. Main thing is we are being recorded, so just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, ask the questions through the Q&A or through the chat. Either one will work. We're going to try to keep an eye on both of those. Probably the Q&A is more formal. You ask your question, and then we have the opportunity then to give you the response either verbally or through the Q&A product. Presentations will be emailed along with follow-up links to the video early. Well, I normally it's early in the following week, but next week is a holiday week, so I'm going to say most likely it'll be sometime next week, but look for it the week after if not. And if you don't get it after that, then reach out and we'll see if we can get it to you. All right. Ooh, disconnect. Close that, then I'll open and we'll start with talking about partitions. Okay, so normally I do all of my presentations via PowerPoint. And then Renee, when she does hers are usually all live. I'm kind of switching that up this time. So I'm going to do some live demo. So it's always a good thing because you never know what you're going to get. So I'm going to start by going into the Web Focus Reporting Console. And we're going to talk about different ways to do things that you've been doing all along using older technology. So here on my screen, I have a procedure. I'm doing a define file GG sales. Some of you might be a little confused that I'm not using car because I usually always use car. So I need a little more data, so I'm going to GG sales. Define file GG sales, I'm just basically separating out the year and the month from the date. So the year goes into its own field and the month is going into its own field. And then we're going to sum dollars. And then I want to see the last value for dollars. So I'm going to do a compute. My field name is going to be called last dollars. And it's going to be equal to the last command space dollars on the field in the database. And I'm going to sort that by state, and then by date year, and then by date month. So when I run that, notice we have California, we have 1996, we have the 12 months. Dollars, the first value is 292,000. The next value is 375,000. But the last dollars, there is no last dollar on the first line because there was no previous line. So I have no last reference. But notice on the second line, the value for last dollars is 292,000, the same as the dollar value on the previous line. So that's the power of last. I can compare the current value with the previous value. Sometimes you might want to go back further. Like you might want to do a rolling average or a rolling sum, a 12-month sum, those kind of things. So what I can do then is I can take this and say compute last dollars equals last, and then I'm going to use the field that I computed last dollars. So now last dollars is going to be the previous for dollars, and then last dollars is going to be the previous for last dollars. So if I run that, we see last dollars on the first line, there is no reference. The second line, we have a reference. But last, because it's the second one out, I didn't have two before in last dollars, so it's also 0. And we get our first value now based on the original value for dollar sales 2 rows ahead, or 2 rows previously. So you could do that. You want a 12-month, let's say a 12-month average. You could do each one for each month, and then you'd have 12 the original value, and then 11 last computes. So that's the way it's been done. So what's new? Let's just stick with the 1 for now. Enter the partition functions. So I'm gonna have partition last, and this is gonna equal the partition reference. So I'm gonna refer to a point in the grouping before what we're looking at. So partition ref, I'm gonna say I want to see based on the dollars field, based on the dollars field, I want to see the previous value. Too far. Okay, let's see if I got the syntax correct. And I did not. So now I cheat and I go back to what I had already written up. All right, so it's dollars, and then I have to specify the grouping. In this case, it's going to be date, year, and then the reference point. So let's fix that. If I say I want to get the last reference within the year, I can put the date year here. And the date, the value that you put in the grouping here has to be a bifield. So I could do it within state, I could do it within year, I can do it within month. So now when I run it, notice I have the partition last dollars, which looks almost identical to the last dollar. The only difference is, notice here when I change years, 1997 for partition value has a 0 because there is no previous value for 1997 before 01. So the partition function is within the grouping, and the grouping is that second parameter, the field that we're grouping it with. In this case, it's the date year. If I want to make it the same, I can change that and say table. Because then table is references, I want to get the last value for all the rows in the table. So now I got 0, 0, and then when the year changed, I have the previous value, in this case, the 306,000. All right, any questions on that? So I showed you how to do the last. So let's see if we can do that with partition ref. It's so simple. I just say -2. So now I get 2 levels above, but the real power with partition ref is that you don't have to go backwards. I can go forwards and say +2, +1. Let's just do +1. So now partition last, well, this isn't really last, this is now future. This value should be the value of dollars on the second row, which is going to be that one, and it is, and so on. So any questions on the partition ref function? It gives you a lot more power than just using a last. The last, you're limited to the entire table, where the partition function, you can identify what group you're doing the last or the reference point from. Okay. Let's save that. Okay, so now we're going to go into grouping and summarizing data. So in the beginning, we had multiverb. So I'm going to sum dollars, and then I'm going to sum dollars by state, and then I'm going to sum dollars by state, by date year, by date month. So notice I have three different verbs in here, three sums. The first sum doesn't have any biphrases. The second sum has one biphrase, so it's going to summarize by state. And then the third query is going to sum dollars by the three fields like we were doing before. So when I run that, total dollars for California is that. Total for the year, total for everybody is that one. That's for the whole population. And then this is the individual by month. Okay, so that was the first way. The second way was using within. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this code and replicate it. And here I want to do sum dollars within table. Then I want to also show dollars. I don't have to do the verb again because it's all into the same verb. But this time within state. And then I'm going to do the third dollars based on the by field. So it's one verb as opposed to multi-verb, which gives you a little more flexibility. I'm going to bypass this one. So to bypass, if you remember when we talked about dialog manager, we can do a dash go to. If we just want to skip around some code. And notice I have the dollar amount, dollar sales. So the first one is for the table. The second one is for by state. The third one is by the month. So when you're doing within, it's always a good idea. You might want to put a as statement to identify what the particular summary value is. All right, so multi-verb, not multi-verb, using within. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the newest partition code. So again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to take out that skip because I don't want it to go there first. So dollars within table, I would then do a computes. We'll call it table dollars. And it's going to be partition agger. So we have partition ref for the reference point and partition agger if you're doing aggregation of dollars within table. And we want to go from the beginning to the end. So let's just do that one first. And dollars table beginning end. Dollars beginning end. I missed one value, which is, what do I want to do with these values in this group? Well, in this case, I want to sum them. There's always that one parameter that gets you. Okay, so that looks right. Now, if I want to do it again for within state, I just copy this. Instead of table, we're going to do it within the grouping of the by field state. And we're going to run that. And there's the state values. And then finally, we're going to do dollars. So then I just need to put this one back in. So I'm doing the compute partition agger. Let's call this one table. We'll call this one ST. Not, And then the last one is just going to be dollars, and then dollars is going to be by state, by year, by month. And if I move this and I say, oh, it's not moving. So any questions on the partition agger? Can you do multi-verb with designer? Can you do groupings in like you can in App Studio? You're muted.
No, I know. I'm not sure if we can, but I'll look into it.
Okay. I would. I know in App Studio we can because you have you can specify the field that you want to do multiple times, and then put it. You have to identify it that many times, like we did in the code, and then you have all your sort fields, and then you drag and drop the sort values into each level that you want to do the aggregation in. I know we're trying to bridge what we can do in App Studio in Designer.
Yeah.
So, if it's not there already, hopefully it will be there at some point. Joe, you raised your hand. Is that by accident or do you have a question? If you can put it in chat, and we'll give him a chance. All right. All right, Lee, thanks for being here. Yeah, the recordings will be available. You can always watch this later if you do need to drop. All right, so we got that within partition agger. One of the things with partition agger is notice I have beginning and end here. So that's within the grouping. So let's say for date. I did that right. State. Let's do date year. Let's add one more. So we'll do year dollars. We'll break this out a year. I'm going to take these two out just to make the output a little cleaner. Should I put the right field name? So the year dollars is the same value for the entire year. So 1996 is the same value. 1997, we get a new value. But like I said, the power in partition ref, where I could not only go backwards and see previous records, but I can also go forward for partition agger, as opposed to just starting at the beginning and the end, I can say go from beginning to current. So now the first value is from the beginning of the group to the current row, which would be the same as the current row here. Now that doesn't look right. That's that one. All right. So this is the one that we're doing the partition agger on. So this value is the same. This value is the sum of these two values. This value is the sum of the three values. So you have a lot more power with the partition function. Do these partition functions get pushed down to the database? For example, Oracle. When we can, we do, yes. Will they all the time? I can't say that. It all depends on functions and other functions that you might be using. And as long as you're using database fields, chances are that it will get pushed down. But we try to push everything we can to the relational database. If not, we just bring the answer set back and we do the calculation ourselves. All right, so I can go beginning to current. I can go from current to end. I can also go from -1 to +1. So if I only want to see the sum of the previous value with the current value with the next value, I can do that also. It would help if I put a plus. So now year one would be this value would be the sum of lines 1 and 2. But the second value is the sum of 1, 2, and 3, because I said go from the previous line to the next line. So that would be the three rows that are going to be the sum. Any questions on partition agger? All right, so now let me go back to the presentation side. So we talked about partition ref and we talked about partition agger. The purpose of the slides is mostly just to give you the exact syntax. So hopefully you don't try to remember like me and miss a parameter or two. So here's partition ref. You can do prefix operators. You can do the value for a field. You have the sort field that you're grouping it within, or you have the table, and then you have the offset. Is it -1, -2? Can partition agger be used in a compute in a master file description? Yes, it can, because you're not actually invoking it until you put it in a query. So you can. The only thing that would be a caveat would be you need to specify either the table that you're doing it across all records in the output, or are you doing it within a by field? If you're doing it within a by field, you need to make sure that you provide the by field in your query. So you could set the definition in the master in the synonym, but if you don't have the by field that you reference, then you'll get an error. Okay, the different prefix operators you can use. The field would be the field, a verb object in the query. This is your grouping. Am I going against the whole table, or am I only doing it based on a sort field? The offset, am I going forward or backwards? There's some so let's see. I think the partition ref, because it's a compute, it's evaluated before a where total, but after a where grouped. I don't know if we've talked about where groups enough during these sessions, so that might be something we'll do in 2026. Fields used in reference partition will be added to the matrix. Cross columns is supported, but by rows over is not. And then we have some more examples that you can look at using DWF Retail Lite. I'm not going to go through those right now. Partition agger. Can I do count distinct with partition agger ref? Rudolph, you're jumping ahead of me here. So give me a minute and we'll be there soon. So we have partition agger. We have the measure. You can do a prefix operator on the measure. Again, your sort field or table. Your beginning in the group to the end of the group, or where you're starting from, where you want to go to, and then the operation. All right, so notice, Rudolph, the last line in here says, as of 936, we do support count distinct. Now, how are we on time? Okay, we're almost at the half hour. Ken, you said you're going to be about 30 minutes?
Give or take.
All right, so I should have time then. And then we have some more examples. Again, we do things live just to see how bad we can mess things up. I'm not running 936. I'm running 935. But let me just see what happens. Save this one. Let's do a new procedure. For this one, I'm going back to my friend table, table file car. Instead of sum for the count distinct, we have to do a print. And I'm going to do a print compute VSTC. And we're going to do partition, agger, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And then within model, big car, and I want to go from beginning to end. And I want to do the count thing by country, by car, by model. Okay, but before I do that, the dash exit says I'm going to stop my processing there. So we're just going to look at the first table. All right, so here for England, I have 3 distinct values, right? And for car, for Jaguar, I have 2 distinct values. So let's see if what we get shows that, or if I get anything. Because again, I'm not in the correct version. And I don't see the output, so let's see what happens.
Country is spelled wrong on line 10.
Ah. Didn't matter. So it still has a problem. Right, so instead of end, I'm going to quit there. Yeah, so I'm not in the right version to do this. Kin, what I'm going to do is I'll let you do your thing, and I'll bring up a 937. So hopefully I can show this.
Okay.
So let me stop sharing. Let me just make sure there's no other questions. Not yet. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing, and you can take it away.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so like Walter introduced, my name is Ken. I am the product manager for Web Focus Designer. And today we're going to go over how to build drill downs in Designer. So for the most part, we all know that drill downs, when you create a drill down, we go from a report and you click on a link and then it'll open another tab, or it refreshes the same tab. So in this case, we're going to open it in Designer where we could drill down from one container to another container, as well as going from another page. So here, the agenda for today, and I'm also going to do a live demo as well, just to showcase this, because I know this is a lot of click steps as well as, some more arguments that we need to add here. So the first one, we're just going to go to a drill down to a target panel. So one container to another container. And then the second one will use another argument to also drill down from one page to another page within the same port. So the overview here is we're going to focus on using the portal dispatch function. So this one, it is shipped with WebFocus. So you can use this, but we do have to call the JS file, which I'll also go over as well. And we're going to do two ways, like I mentioned. So we're going to target to the report as well as navigating from one page to another page. And I'm going to demonstrate how to do both, how to set them up, and we'll start from there. So for the first drill down, what we're passing to the portal dispatch JavaScript function for the first argument is called the drill refresh argument. So what we're going to do here is essentially refresh the entire page within the container. Whichever value that you select, that's going to refresh and pass it down to your other reports. So the general way of creating these, it's fairly simple. I'm sure some of you already know how to do these. So the first one is we have to create our drill down targets. So these are the reports that are receiving your parameters that you want to drill down to. So just to make a note as well, in Designer, any filter that you create, it's multi-select by default. So you do have to go into it and into the GUI, right-click to open the right-click options as well, and then change it to a single. So I'll also show that as well. The second thing that we have to do is also create the report to house the drill down links. That's your main parent report that we're creating. And lastly, we just have to put them onto a Designer page. But before we do that, what I like to do is specify the JS file, because if we don't specify this JS file, it won't run. It won't know where to find the portal dispatch function. It'll just error out, or it just won't work. So what we want, the first thing I always like to do is also specify this set.js URL file. And just so that it's there, it's set, you put it into your server profile and you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure that the syntax is correct. And I'll show you where to put that as well. And just to make sure and that all things are well, you also have to make sure that your context root, if it's not IBIApps, you just have to just edit the URL to make sure it's pointing to your own installation. So what we're going to do is essentially this screenshot here of how we configure our drill down parameters. This is a screenshot from the tool itself, and this is how we're going to build it. So there's a couple arguments here that we're going to use. So the first one is the drill refresh, like I mentioned. So the second value is the self, as in like we're just refreshing within the same container. So the third value where you see panel 1, panel 2, that's totally customizable. You can put it to whatever class name that works for you. So let's say, for instance, in here, we have panel 1 and panel 2. So these are the panel ones. Panel 1, panel 2 is a class name that we're going to use within Designer to so that the function knows to target those two containers with those two class names to refresh those containers with your content that you're trying to drill down to. And then the fourth one is the fexes that we're drilling down. So you're familiar with this. If we create a regular drill down, we're selecting content and page. We're targeting each fex here as well. And you can put multiple fexes here, and to differentiate multiple fexes is just a space in between. And the other values here is just the parameter name as well as the field and parameter and field. And we'll go into our first demo. So like I said, the first one, what we have to do is also specify the JS file. So we go into your reporting server console and we go into your workspace and we'll open to your server profile. And all we have to do is just add this link here and save. That's it. And it should know where to look for that JS function and apply it to what we're trying to build with our drill down. So here I have everything pre-made already. So essentially we want to build our target content, the parent for it to house our drill down link, as well as the pages that go along with it. So the first one, so here, they're just simple reports using WF Retail. So we just have a simple report that just a couple of fields here. And then, like I said, we have to make sure that the parameters here are single select. So the way to do that is you just right click this and just make sure that they are set to single select. As well as if you have multiple ones, so for instance, in this report, just to double check and also make sure they're single select. So here, what I have is my parent report. This is just a simple report. This will be your report to build your drill down content. So to do that, you right click your field here. For the right click options, you do configure drill downs. So normally when you create a drill down, you'll come up with this view. So what we want to do is to enable the JavaScript. We just click on JavaScript and we'll enter our values. So here we're using, like I said, the function for portal dispatch. Well, the first value, the argument that we're passing so that the JavaScript function knows to run this particular argument is drill refresh. So as the name implies, we're just refreshing the containers within the same page. So here, like I mentioned earlier in the screenshot, this is the place where you could put any class name that makes it better for your own workflow. So for in this one, I'm just naming it panel 1. So my panel 1 will be something like right here, and my panel 2 will be down here. In this case, since I have 2 reports that we have here that it's using the same product category parameter, I wanted to drill and also refresh on 2 different panels in 1 click. So here I have my first FX here, and my second FX will be over here. And this is the parameter name as well as the field. And if you're not sure what the parameter name that you're using, you can go in a text editor, or if you have it open in a GUI like I have already, like here, you can just right click. This is also available in 935. So if you right click this and you have a rename parameter, you could just take the name here, just do it like Control A, copy it. Sometimes you have parameter names that may be kind of long. Like for instance, this one. This one's a fairly long parameter name that we have that's defaulted. Many people like myself won't remember this whole long name. So you can go here and just do a Control A and do a copy. And you could use that as your parameter name for, in this case, for sale year. And then that's all the arguments here for this particular field. This is for product category. So if we want to do the same thing for sale year, that'll be the same thing. You right click the field, you go to configure drill downs. And here, remember we had that long parameter name here. It's going to be quite tough to kind of remember all the little details that we want. So if you don't remember, you can always go into the GUI, go to the rename and do a copy and paste, and you can paste it here. This is the FX for just this one, because for sale year, I set it up so that only this report has sale year, but my first report does not. So it doesn't matter because we're not drilling down sale year for this first report. So the second report is what only thing that we're going to refresh when we click a sale year. And same thing, so the FX, where the FX is located, as well as the parameter name and the field itself. So once you have all these 3 set up, so you have your target content as well as your parent content, then what you want to do is create a page. So we can just go to when you create a sample page, you'll have, the blank template, and you just drag it onto the canvas. So here is just my first, second, and third report. But remember, we had to have our class names so that it knows where, when I click this link, it's going to refresh these 2. So if you click on the container, it's not going to know where it is. We have to enter these class names. So, but we don't want to enter in the container level. We want to enter in the content level. So to do that, you just click the middle here. You see a highlighter here, as well as here. So we go into settings. There's a classes edit box. You just put your class name here. So the first report here, so as the product category is going to filter down to my panel 1, as well as panel 2. But sale year is only going to refresh panel 2. So you want to make sure that these are all set up the way it is, to put your class name into the content panel, not onto the container itself. So when you run this page, what you'll get is something that looks like this. So if I click on, let's say, accessories, it's going to refresh this first page, well, this first report. And this one it is a larger report, so it will take a little bit of time. Right. So you see, I left the powder category field here just so that you know that it did filter down. So you see all the accessories here, accessories all here, but here, and then for sale year, we want to see only, let's just say 2025. So notice this is not refreshing, and only down here is going to take a refresh here. So we'll see only the 2025 year, and this will still work. You just go click 2023. This will also filter down. And if I click on, I think media players that I clicked on. And let that take a little bit. So I do apologize. My machine is a little bit slow today, but I think you guys get the idea. If you click the link, it will just refresh this. There you go. And this will take a little bit. Okay. Do we have any questions for the portal dispatch for Joe refresh?
Nothing yet.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll move on. So the second portion here, essentially now where we want, maybe you don't want all the content on one singular page. Maybe you have your first page as just data in general that you want to just don't want to refresh other panels on the page. We want to drill down to another page, but also filter down as well. So here, the portal refresh, portal dispatch function has another argument that we can pass, which is called navigate to page. So what that does is essentially the same thing as drill refresh, but instead of just refreshing within the container, it's going to refresh the containers in another page within your same portal. So this one is a little bit more setup for the other one because the setup, for drill refresh, what we want to set up is your parent content as well as your target content. And once you have that, then you put into your designer page. But here we actually have to create a portal first and also the different pages that we want to drill to. So I'll go through all these steps here as well. So, and I'm also going to demo this as well. So first you want to create your parameter drill down reports, similar to what I showed before, where you have your two reports that's accepting the parameter values that you want. And then we have to set up our portal where we want to house these designer pages that we're going to create. And the third, to create your JavaScript drill down function, which similar to the first report where we set up the link, when we set up the parameters, the arguments, and where we wanted to drill to. And we added all, I'm sorry?
There are some questions.
Okay.
In regard to syntax highlighting, autocomplete type ahead within designer function editor, type ahead within designer function editor is missing. Might it come in a later release? So I guess syntax highlighting, autocomplete, and type ahead.
It might, I'm not sure we're looking into that right now, but that'll be inside. I'm assuming you're talking about like the JavaScript editor.
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
also JavaScript functions, what other functions exist? Do you have a complete list syntax reference?
I believe there are some JavaScript functions that are listed in our documentation. I believe some of them are listed in the user guide. So you can take a look there to see if there are some that you may want to use for your portal. But for this particular lab here is just for drill downs.
Okay, and then why is single select required? Does it not work when the filter is defined as multi-select?
Yeah. So for single select is required because the link that we have is just a single select link. We don't have the option here to select multiple values. So what you see here in this report here, we're just clicking on one value here to drill down into these. We're not clicking multiple values. But there is a multi-select portal dispatch function as well. But that's a different way to set it up.
Okay. And then could the page filters, I guess this is kind of
this answer is yes.
Could they be multi-select? Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be another function to use. But for this one, this is both has to be single select, just because these links are single select links. So we don't have right here, we don't have an option to select multi-select. So that's why we have to make sure that the filters that we set up in Designer is set to single select.
Thank you.
So similar to what we had for drill refresh, the difference here is that we're passing the navigate to page argument. And the second argument here, it won't be self because we're not refreshing within ourselves. We have to refresh the page that we want to target. So it has to go from your repository, the workspace that you want. This is just a username, but the name of your portal as well as the target page. I'll also show you how to get that path. And here is your parameter as well as the field parameter and field. And our demo. So here, let's go back to here first. So we have to create our portal first. So the way that we create a portal, you just go to your plus content menu, application, and portal. This will bring us to a new page where you add your name, title, name, and alias. And once you click save, it'll bring you to something that looks like this. You'll have your component menu where you can add your new section, you can section it off, or as well as adding a new page. But these are pages that I've already pre-created that we added the reports to. So let's say, for instance, similar to how we have our page 4 here, like this one. So page 8 here is all it houses is my drill down link. And the page 9 is my target reports. And all of these will also be added onto your portal that will look like something like this. So here is your page. So when you drag something onto your page, you want to make sure, I usually like to do it, but I make sure that my content is added as links. So as for the most part, anytime you update your pages, this will also update here as well. The good thing about the designer pages as well, designer portals as well, is that once you make any changes, it auto saves. So let's get to how we create our drill down link. So here, same thing as how we did before the previous report. We just right click, we go to configure drill downs. So the values that we have here, we're going to do navigate to page. This is the path to the specific portal page that we want to drill to inside the portal. And then the parameter name as well as the field. So to get this path here, what all we have to do is go to your WebFocus Hub, right click your portal name. It'll give you options to click open. This will open into the, I guess, the file explorer, and you right click your page, the one that we added into our portal, go to properties, and you have the path here. And we have this copy button, so it makes it easier for you to just copy. So what it's trying to do is also linking to this name. So you can also configure this as well. It doesn't have to be the generic name that we put onto designer pages here and within the portal. So you could rename this, but I left it as is so that you can see where it goes. Is sometimes it could be any name that you like, but I left it as the link names because that's what we link this page to this portal. And same thing with your value as well as your field. And for your cell year, very similar, same thing. Make sure that we're using the navigate to page. It is case sensitive, so you have to make sure that it's using the camel case. So you see how it's navigate and then capital T and capital P, as well as the page that we want to drill to and the parameters. So once you add it all to your portal, it'll look like something like this. And if you run this portal, it'll look like this. So what we want to do is, like, if I click accessories, this will load this page and also filter this down. So if I go back and also click on a year, same thing, same setup as how he had before. It only took on the parameter that it has sale year in. So this is that second report. So it's only going to filter there. So you notice how like the accessory and year are the same. And that's also because that's just also more so because the page is also filtering down accessories. We're not updating these as we go, but we can update them as we click different values, and it'll update both reports. So one of the questions that I've had previously was, can we drill down to another portal? So the short answer is we cannot. We can't drill. So I set up this one to see if we can drill to another portal page. We can't. So what you can set it up to drill to another page within a portal, and it'll still filter down assuming that the parameter values are still the same. So in this case, this is pointing to another portal that I have on my machine that's taking product category as a parameter. So if I just click this, what it's going to do is that it's not going to refresh this page because this page doesn't exist in my portal, but it will go to the page that I selected. And assuming that exists, it will filter down. So I select the media player, it will filter down here, as well as if I went and clicked on year, let's just go 2022. It'll open the link again, similar to like drilling down from one report to another report. So it'll filter down 2022 down here. Okay. Do we have any questions? Can I combine this with conditional styling? I haven't tried that before. Let me offer a drill down with specific condition. If you can set up your conditional statement to I guess display a link when the condition is met, I assume that we can, but I haven't given that a try yet though. Do we have any additional questions for portal dispatch, whether it's the drill refresh or navigate to page? I have not tried passing null, but I assume that you probably can, but it will probably just pass it. It might either error out or it will just you'll just filter down all the null values. I haven't tried that though. Most of the data that we use for our sample data has some sort of data to drill to, but I haven't tried passing a null before.
Yeah, I would suspect it'd be what the FOCLOG keyword to use in order to check for that.
No, I'm not positive because then like if the data is missing, it'll just be like a dot depending on the linear you use. Yes, it does work on charts. It will be the same way you set it up. You just have to right click the field and then go to configure drill down. And the same setup will be how we have it here. Like let's say for if you're doing within the page, it'll be the same setup.
Great questions.
Any additional questions?
Yep. If the field isn't in the chart, but it is a parameter, can I pass it to the drill down?
If the field isn't in the chart, I think you can still set it up, but for the most part, configuring your drill down, the field has to be present. Because we have to be able to, let's say, we have to be able to right click this to configure the drill down. And if the field is not in the one that you're passing, your drill down report has to still accept it. So let's say if media player is not here, or product category is not here, it should be able to still pass, assuming that or maybe you could do it as like a hidden. Because it'll still be, I think it'll still be in the code still.
Yeah, I know for table it will do that, but you can have no print fields in your chart too, right?
We could check that. I mean, the data here is going to take a while to load, I think. Just because I have all these fields here. All right, so me changing it to a chart with these fields probably wasn't a good idea. Yeah. Yes, you should be able to.
All right, so the question was, let's say it's car master and it has a car park pie chart, but there's a parameter for country. Can you pass that for country due to the drill down, for example?
Should be able to.
Can you do it directly, or do you need to create a defined field that has the value and then go print that?
Might have to create the value.
Lots of ways to do these things.
Yep.
But I think
you're
gonna try here to do the no print somewhere.
I'm sorry?
I think you're going to try to do a no print to see if you can put it in the chart.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't think that all these will let me go there. Not on this session.
Right.
Oh, yeah, the no print is still there.
Okay, cool. All right, any other questions? Did you get what you needed to do, Kim?
Yes. Back to you,
So
Walter.
back to me. Let me share. I did get the count distinct working. So let's just jump into that.
So Rudolph, I don't think that there's a limit for the parameter you're passing. Not that I've tried.
I know way back when we used to have for parameters, it was a 32K limit, but I don't believe that that's still there. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so what I'm doing here is, and I'm gonna hide this code, so I don't want you to see that yet. Clean this up beforehand. All right, so the first table is going to just show you the raw data, and I'm limiting it to the country of England, because that one has the more exciting information in it, as far as distinct seats. And then the second table is where I use the partition agger, and I use the count distinct aggregator. Notice I'm doing print because unfortunately, that's one of the rules for being able to do the count distinct. So let's just go through. I'm doing two count distincts. I'm doing one within country and one within car. So let me run that. So here for England, notice there's 1, 2, 3 distinct values within country, but within car Jaguar, there's only 2 distinct values, and Jensen only has 1, Triumph only has 1. So where we're using the partition agger, you see the values 2, 5, 4, 2. Count distinct for country is 3 across the board, and count distinct for car is 2 for Jaguar and then 1 for the other 2. So we did this because I know a lot of you are using or try to use count distinct within, and it may have worked or seemed to have worked at one time, and then you started getting an error message saying that the count distinct has to be at the lowest pi level. That was done because there was potential of having wrong results. So that's why we did that. So in order to give you something to get you what you want, then we looked at implementing the count distinct within the partition function because it's basically what it's doing. It's saying, look only within this range. So it's kind of like a matrix calculation. Only look within this part of the matrix and do the calculation there. So the next progression from this would be, well, what if I want to see aggregated values in here? Because you said, oh, I can't do this because it's a print. So I'm not aggregating. It's a detail report. So what you do in that case is, and that's where I hid this, this next report is exactly the same, except I added a calculation of retail cost summarized by country, retail cost summarized by car, and retail cost at the model level, which would be the detail. So now when I run this, I get the retail cost at the country level. And it's the same across the board for that country. You could also have done within table if you wanted to see the whole population. The retail cost by car. So there's only 2 Jaguars, so we see the 2 rows and they have the same value for the total, and then the individual retail cost by the model. So any questions on that? Okay, I see that makes sense. I have a custom JavaScript used to run, but it works, hoping it would work this way. Okay, so Matthew, the custom JavaScript, you're talking on what Kin talked about or what I'm talking about? I'm assuming it's Kin.
Yeah, it's for the drill. I'll answer it in the chat.
Okay. All right, thanks. So any other questions on partition agger, partition ref? Anything you might want to see? Again, this is available in 9.3.6, which is, it should be out. All right, if there's no more questions, we're going to jump into the mainframe part of the user group. So if you're not a mainframe customer, you don't have to stay. But if you do leave, please make sure you fill out the surveys. In particular, this is the end of the year, or we're toward the end of the year. We have our Focus Friday next month, which is going to kind of be a wrap up of what we did during the year. I'm going back to do some seasonal gems, some good tips and techniques that you may have heard of at one point but may have forgotten. So hopefully that'll be helpful. But we need topics for next year. So on this survey, when you fill it out, the evaluation, let us know what you want to hear about for next year. All right. So we'll give people a chance to drop if they want to drop. Again, we're going to talk specifically mainframe. So if you're not running on a mainframe, it's probably not going to make any sense. All right, thanks for coming. See you next month. Cool. Don't need too much next week. All right. That. Get my other presentation up. Okay, again, if you're dropping off, thanks for coming. Hopefully we'll see you next week. We pretty much do these every month. So if you haven't received the notification, because usually through the emails, we'll send something that's coming up on that you can register. If you feel like there might be one coming up that you haven't gotten an invite for, let us know, just so we can make sure that you stay in the loop. All right. Let me just check, see who's all left. Okay. All right, let's just jump into the mainframe part. In previous sessions, we talked about FOCLOG. The sessions I've done so far are, what is it and how to install it. But I never really talked about the FOCLOG reporting facility that is part of the FOCLOG product. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you the different reports and information that you can extract from the data that you're using in FOCLOG. So in order to get started, we have to set up in the profile, and the profile, there's a procedure name called FLProf. Now, the FOCLOG reporting is a set of folk execs and a master file. The master file is called FOCLOG. We ship some of them with the product, but those are older. So if you don't have the newer versions, and by newer versions, I mean when you received your set of license keys, you should have received a package, and that package would have had all of the current FOCLOG reporting information. So if you don't have that, or if something looks different from what I'm showing, let us know and we can make sure, open a case with support, and we'll make sure that you get the proper files. So in here we have FLProf, and all you have to do is change your company name in a dash set. It's global with the double ampersands, and then change the dynamic to show where your FOCLOG collection data set is. So in this case, it's in myid.folklog.data. And then once I do that, from the focus command prompt, I can just execute FL menu. So the menus are broken out into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different menu items, say, across the top. We got user information, file information, procedure information, usage, custom, so you can create your own custom reports, and then assign them to a number that you can run through the menu system. And then ad hoc will basically just take you to a focus prompt, and then you can type your own queries at that. So on the user level, we have duration, highest CPU, most online sessions, total MSO sessions. So if you're running FOCLOG and you're not sure if you're running just Focus or Focus through MSO, the FOCLOG information will show you that. Let's go to File. We show you possible extract files that are being generated. We'll tell you the number of records that we read or that were written. We'll show you the files that were used by individual users. We'll show you the difference between batch and online file usage. And then files that use the most CPU and reports is also something that's very helpful. Data source types. Are you accessing DB2, IMS? So this focus databases. This will then give you a handle on how your output's being used, as well as the input. Procedures, which procedures are run the most, what commands are being used. So this is good if you have libraries that have lots of procedures in them, lots of folk execs, and you're not sure and you want to do some cleanup. Then if you have FOCLOG turned on, you can say, oh, well, looks like we've never used these procedures, and then start cleaning things up. Also with usage, as long as you have focus on, you're running on different LPARs, and you have shared DASD, where the same focus collection file is being used across LPARs, then you'll see the individual LPAR usage. If your LPARs are independent of each other, then you'll have to have a separate collection file for each, but you can concatenate them together before you do the reporting and still see a full picture. Okay, output formats used by the report. Are you going to EXL2K? Are you going to XLSX? Are you going to HTML, HTML? So all of that information of how the output is being used can be derived here also. If you're required to send us monthly or quarterly usage, that's part of this 409 report. It's been taken off of here, but it's still here because you can get some valuable information, but the information you send to us has been replaced with a batch job, and it's in the library as JCL4X9. And you just have to create, update some parameters, some sets in the JCL, run it, and then it creates an alpha output file that you can then send to us. Here's the custom. So you can create your own and then save them as FLRPT 501. So, and then update the menu system so that the 501 can be more descriptive of what you created. But it gives you the flexibility of creating up to 10 custom reports. And then lastly, the ad hoc, which takes you back to the command level focus, and then you can do whatever you normally do in focus. So here's an example of the 120 report. All of our pre-canned reports will allow you to do a date range. You can aggregate by quarter, month, or week, and then you can tell it, I want to send it to a screen, a printer, or a hold. Printer, I'm not sure that that's actually being used a lot anymore. That was when we used to send things to the mainframe matrix printers that were in the machine rooms. You can change the sorts. And in this case, I have limited data. This says State of Missouri, but I didn't change my my company name. But this is when I'm using my file, which has only limited data. So all of my sessions run like within seconds. So all of my sessions were less than an hour. This is a sample 105 report, which has usage for total users by day or by month, sorry. This shows you the file usage. So fixed files were used. FMI are the system tables that we provide, like sys table, sys column, sys sets. I know one that's been used recently with some customers. We got focus, VSAM. This one is files used by users. So here's the car file. So we'll tell you the master name of the file that was used. Procedure run details. So this is on the procedure side. So this says that my code was run one time during the month of April. If you have zip enabled, this will show you how much the basic CPU was used and then how much was used on zip. That looks like an LPAR. Let me go back to that one. Yeah, so this, if you're running on several LPARs, then you would see the different names here. Outputs, in this case, 145 reports were directed to the screen, 34 went to hold files, and 2 went to a save file. And that's it. So that's the information or snapshot of the information that you can get if you have the FOCLOG product turned on. So are there any questions on FOCLOG? Again, there are previous sessions on how to turn it on. If you're in an older version, how to install it, because it's not anchored into the product. You have to do that first. The anchoring part doesn't turn it on, so if you do have to do that step, you would still have to look at the how to turn it on, how to invoke it videos. All the videos are available on YouTube, or if you can look at the events page, because we also have links to past sessions over there. If you do go to YouTube, do a search on Focus. Actually, I would put IBI Focus Fridays or just Friday, and then it should give you a list of all just our channel. All right. Any questions? All right. Again, thank you for coming. Please fill out the surveys and let us know what you want to hear about for next year. And hopefully we'll see you next month.